Chapter 58, Pisa por Pisa, Piece by Piece. Today Maxine takes me to the Esplanada. I've never walked the whole thing, and I have a feeling Maxine is going to want to do just that, because she's dressed in sweats and Nikes. Portland's Esplanada is a path for cyclists and pedestrians, and it goes along the Willamette River. I love seeing Portland's waterfront park and bridges all at once. Camera in hand, I take photos as we walk, capturing the boats on the water. A cyclist dings his bell, so we step aside. We find a bench and sit down. The Tillicum Crossing Bridge behind us, the Hawthorne Bridge in front of us. The sun is warm, but every few minutes Portland's breeze embraces us. Maxine asks, "So what's been on your mind lately?" I tell her how I've been thinking about being stitched together and coming undone. "Do you ever feel that way?" I ask. "Absolutely," Maxine says. "Really?" "When I went to St. Francis, most people assumed because I was black I must be on scholarship." "I'm on scholarship," I remind her. "I know, but you were awarded a scholarship because you were smart, not because you're black," Maxine says. "I got tired of people assuming things about me without getting to know me." Maxine squints and goes into her purse. She digs for a moment and then pulls out her sunglasses. Sometimes in class, if something about race came up, I was looked at to give an answer as if I could speak on behalf of all black people, Maxine says. It was exhausting. Very exhausting, I say. A couple walks to the edge of the boardwalk and takes a selfie. I tell Maxine, "I didn't think you dealt with any of that at St. Francis. Seems like you really liked it there." Maxine crosses her legs, leans back against the bench. "I loved a lot about St. Francis, but just because I had a good experience there doesn't mean everything was perfect." Maxine scoots closer to me, lowers her voice, and says, "And to be honest, not all of the negative messages were from white people." "What do you mean?" I ask. "You remember my dad is in real estate, right? Well, when I was a little girl, like elementary school age, I'd overhear him tell his clients who were black that they should take down the photos and artworks in their home in order to have a better chance to sell." "Really?" "Yeah, and I never heard him say that to white families," Maxine says. "And so, I don't know, I think I internalized all of that." She stops talking for a moment, like for the first time she's realizing something. "I guess it made me feel like my blackness needed to be hidden, toned down, and that whiteness was good, more acceptable," Maxine says. Then she laughs as a memory comes to her mind. "I remember being so embarrassed about having friends over to my house." "Are you serious? Why? You have a nice house. It's like a mansion." "Well, it's, black." We laugh hard. "I mean, the art on the walls, the food my family eats," Maxine explains. "When I was in high school, I wasn't sure how my white friends would react. Remember, I grew up with parents who believed you should tone down your blackness when in public. I didn't know how to function when the public came to my private home. I grew up feeling tremendous pride in our culture, what we as people overcame and accomplished. But at the same time, there was this message from my parents telling me not to be too black. At school, with my white friends and teachers, there were all these stereotypes I felt I had to dispel. And with a lot of my black friends, I had to prove that I was black enough, whatever that means. It was complicated," Maxine says. All this time I've been thinking how easy Maxine has it, how she has no idea how I feel, what I go through. We start walking again, making our way back to the car. The boardwalk is crowded now, cyclists and joggers whizzing by. Every now and then, when we see two women speed walking and pushing strollers, it makes us wonder if they plan to get pregnant at the same time so they could have their children together. It makes me wonder if I will ever have a child, and if Lily will ever have a child, and if we'll ever push strollers and walk along a boardwalk together. Clouds are moving in. Maxine lifts her sunglasses up and nestles them to her hair. I ask Maxine, "What are you thinking about?" She smiles and says, "My grandmother. I'm thinking about how she'd say that sometimes it's good to just talk it out, Yeah, my grandmother called it bearing witness. She sits on the porch with her sister and talk the nights away, sometimes gossiping, sometimes praying. I'd hear them confide in each other, telling each other things I knew I wasn't supposed to know about." Maxine hits the button on her keychain to unlock her door. We get in. I didn't get it as a kid. I mean, nothing got resolved necessarily, so I thought it was silly to just sit and rehash everything that was wrong with this world, Maxine says. "Yeah, that's kind of depressing," I say. "But I think what my grandmother was saying is that it feels good to know someone knows your story, that someone took you in," Maxine says. "She'd tell me it's how we heal."